A friend of mine unethically came up with an idea which has brought her millions. I am planning to go after her in court now. I can still vividly recall the night when the idea was conceived. The coffee in our cups was cold by the time we finally hit the light bulb moment during a brainstorming session. Chloe and I had been inseparable ever since college. From being roommates to study buddies, we did everything together. We opened up to one another about our goals, aspirations, and dreams. For the longest time, we have wished to build something meaningful together. By joining our channel, you get the most interesting stories that will always be available for you to listen to as you wish. If you're not a subscriber, you might never see these stories ever again. So, congratulations if you're a subscriber. Chloe was the gregarious one, the one who could sell herself to a rock, while I was the quiet strategist. We talked about launching an imaginative ICT business that could change our lives for the better. Our skill sets complemented ours extremely well, so it was easy to imagine Sheila working in ICT and myself as a design head. While I was sitting on the floor of my living room with our laptops open, something struck as lightning. Up until now, no one has been able to explain what stirred it, but all of a sudden, everything came together. I had wanted for a long time a platform that combined social media interaction with an eco-friendly marketplace where users could connect, share ideas, and buy goods all in one place. It was a perfect fusion of Chloe's passion for digital innovation and my love for sustainability. As I explained this to Chloe, her eyes lit. She immediately threw out ideas that could help us pitch the concept to potential investors and was on board. We knew that we were creating something together that would ultimately change our lives and the world. Chloe would focus on building the framework and fleshing out the concept page while I would handle networking and outreach to other potential investors. I completely trusted her considering she was my best friend and the sister I never had. Now, I look back and understand how naive I was. Too trusting. Never before did I think that 2 weeks of my hard work alone could transform my meeting's outcome quite this much. The problem was more complex than I initially believed, and I thought a sophisticated solution would solve my issue, but as I started doing the inner work necessary for me to get out of the problem cycle, it soon became clear to me that the issues were mainly based in my core beliefs and values. Chloe told me that she was busy with work-related travel, but I could not shake off the gut feeling that something was off. So, who really was Econet? Was Chloe the sole founder? All these questions for now would remain unanswered. Only interaction I had with Chloe was through texting, and that did make asking questions much harder. While strolling throughout social media, I stumbled upon a newly formed startup called Econet whose intelligent shopping network claimed that they will make purchasing products globally more eco-friendly. Shocking, isn't it? But not as shocking as the fact that their business model was nearly a carbon copy of the one I had crafted in the past several months. After such a letdown, it is pretty hard staying optimistic, isn't it? But one thing stood out. Chloe's name was all over it. As the sole founder, she launched Econet single-handedly, serving as the face of the brand. I froze. I could not catch a breath. I kept staring at the screen reading and rereading the announcement. There she was in the picture in which she is smiling with a group of investors and influencers in the background. She looked like she had changed the world. And she had. With my idea. My first instinct was to call her, and as I was doing so, I noticed my hand was trembling a lot while bringing the phone to my ear. Managing to compose myself, I called a second time, and again for a third time, but she still wasn't picking up. Nothing. Finally, the next morning I received, "We need to talk. Meet me at the cafe," instead of the usual small chat I had become accustomed to. That particular night I found it almost impossible to sleep. My mind was racing, but the one certainty that pulled me deeper was, why did she do this to me? My heart was racing as I walked into the cafe, which had been quiet and calm for the most part. Chloe was seated at the corner with a latte, hidden behind a pair of massive sunglasses. I was able to muster up, "Hey," only for me to receive in return, "Hey," which seemed devoid of any emotion to me. I did not bother with any formalities. "What is going on, Chloe?" I asked her as I sat on the chair opposite to her. "Econet? You launched it single-handedly without my involvement?" She sighed heavily and rubbed her temples while taking her sunglasses off. "Listen, I recognize that you are agitated, but I have some explanations." "Explain?" The answer had me rolling on the floor laughing. "I know you did not have the decency to tell me and served lie after lie, but come on. You could have done the right thing by including me, but you wanted it all for yourself, so you didn't." Chloe's gaze shifted, and though she looked away, her eyes remained emotionless. "There is nothing to apologize for because the truth is, I had to do what was best for me." With a heartbeat laden with a blend of anger and pain, I got to my feet. "This isn't over. I said, my voice restrained yet impossible to control. Everything? You think you can just walk away with all of it? You're awfully mistaken. I'll do everything in my power to make you pay. With faltering steps, I left the cafe, deeply invested in my thoughts. Chloe had clearly crossed a line, and I was more than willing to fight back. To start with a lawyer, someone who would surely get the ball rolling in untangling the legal web of mess that Chloe seemed to have set for me. I meticulously documented everything. Our brainstorming sessions, the prototypes I worked on, and all the emails and texts where we deliberated the concept. I was well aware that they were going to be extremely helpful for me. She could not just take my work, profit from it, and leave me with absolutely nothing in return. Finding a lawyer who would take on the case was simple. The moment I spoke to Megan, a seasoned intellectual property lawyer, I realized she understood everything that I was going through. You have a classic case of idea theft, she remarked in our first conversation. There is clear evidence that this concept was discussed by both of you, and she implemented it without your permission, and there is proof to back it all up. The next few months were a whirlwind of meetings, legal papers, and intense battles. Chloe's team, naturally, put up a strong defense. They contested everything by stating that Econet was a separate Chloe's initiative and that I had no connection to it. However, Megan did not rest her case there. For every email, for every text message, for every piece of evidence that I had, she gave me a full defense to show that I was the one who came up with the idea and that Chloe stole it from me. The legal case caught media attention more than any had expected. Soon after, headlines surfaced regarding the distressed lawsuit between ex-best friends, and their inquisitiveness knew no bounds. Reporters started to research about us, sifting through the details of our friendship and the ventures we had aspired to build together. It was exhausting and painful, yet I was content knowing that the lies will be unveiled. Chloe was not prepared for such a turn. The investors were beginning to sweat. The media demonized her as a heartless person ready to discard the friendship bond for wealth and publicity. As much as I appreciate the sympathy, their pity is almost unbearable, for part of me feels lost and alone. In the past we stood like sisters, and now we have grown to become one another's greatest enemies. Facing betrayal from the person I trusted the most while being in the courtroom was the last thing I would have imagined my life becoming. The trial happened more quickly than I expected. I remember feeling nervous at my stomach, clenched tightly as I sat in the courtroom and listened to both lawyers present their arguments. Megan was exemplary, walking the jurors through our event's timeline and detailing every piece of evidence that showed Chloe had stolen the idea from me. On the other hand, Chloe's lawyer tried to frame her as the sole inventor of Econet while downplaying and completely ignoring all the work I had done. Chloe sat on the other side of the room wearing the usual business attire that made her look every bit the polished entrepreneur. Yet, I could see through her cracks, the way she appeared stressed out from the lawsuit. Her overly confident attitude that got her attention from the media started shrinking. She wasn't the same Chloe I knew, and perhaps I was not the same either. After what felt like forever, the jury finally returned with their verdict. They ruled in my favor. It was a glorious legal triumph, with the court ruling in my favor and acknowledging that I contributed significantly toward the concept of Econet. As a result, I was granted the right to substantial profits from the corporation, meaning my former colleague Chloe will now pay damages to me. After such a long, painful battle, I was finally receiving the justice that was overdue. The relief alongside willingly accessing my bespoke drawer was immeasurable, bordering euphoric state. But at the same time, there was an overreaching sense of loss that reached with me too. While I did manage to obtain what was rightfully mine, I had sacrificed tremendously along the way, including my best friend, someone I thought I would spend the rest of my life with, until I could finally trust them with my deepest secrets. Chloe seems to have opted for living under the radar as she has fully disappeared after the trial. However, the sale of her Econet shares suggests she is not planning to return anytime soon. Nonetheless, I was able to reclaim my entitled status as a co-founder of the company. Though the journey to establishing my dream business has been exhilarating, they no longer elicit the joy they did before. A year has passed since the trial, and while I have moved on in numerous ways, the sense of betrayal still resonates. I have undergone a lot of learning when it comes to the multifaceted concept of trust, in addition to the delicacy of friendships and the potential consequences of combining one's business with personal relationships. Further, I have learned how to advocate for myself and stand up for what I believe I deserve. Sometimes, late at night, I ponder on what could have been. What if Chloe never took the Econet idea? What if we actually went ahead and built Econet together, as we always talked about? Would we still be friends today? Would the outcome somehow be affected? I will never know, But one thing is certain, and that is, I am stronger than what I used to be. I have constructed something independently and have learned to endure the repercussions of betrayal. The future is something I can mold. This time around, I choose not to let anyone take that away from me.